Hi, good evening, ma'am. We are live.
Good evening, everybody. Today we are here with yet another topic, rectifying problems in the Indian education system. We have with us Mr. Shrishir Srivastav, who is currently serving as the head international relations of City Montessori School in Lucknow. He's an author, a peace educator, and a motivational speaker. He holds a master degree in counseling, psychology, and a PG diploma in human resource management. He's written many, many, many books, and his best selling book was so far The Eight Powers Within You. And in 2014, he also wrote a book which is To Yuva, which is a collection of inspiring poems in Hindi for the youth and has been very much appreciated by Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi. I mean, what an inspiration is what I can say. This is going to be a power packed session with all the motivation coming out of him and inspiring all of us here. Thank you, Catfit, for making sure, or for giving us this beautiful platform and making sure we are always getting very relevant topics for everybody's purpose. Things that we can utilize, things that we can use, and it also makes a difference in our lives. So, Arpan, I pass the baton to you and you can start to roll your first question to sir.
Good evening, sir. And once again, thank you for coming to our platform. We were eagerly waiting for this. For the last 4 years, we've been focusing on alternate education in schools, colleges, and universities. From 2017, we've been going to schools, colleges, and universities, providing alternate education from self-defense to trauma management to psychometric to leadership. So it was, it is wonderful to have you with us today. My first question says the most basic question: what are the major problems? Because you've been in the education sector for so long. What are the major issues plaguing the Indian education system, and what are the measures being taken by schools to rectify them?
Firstly, thank you to both of you and to all our viewers for coming here together. Thank you, Ms. Ali, for introducing me so kindly. And thank you, Mr. Arpan and the CatFit team for bringing up this issue and me over to talk about this issue. So, first question goes like this: that what is the current system of education, how it is plaguing, and what Indian schools are doing? Well, I would like to say that I mean the common problem has we have been following a pattern called the rote learning pattern. Mostly, it's basically the three R's: the writing and the reading and arithmetic, and mostly the students are judged on the basis of these three core skills, that is their writing abilities, their numerical abilities, and of course if you combine them with the verbal and numerical abilities, the rote learning as we call it. And schools, and I would say some of the private schools especially have done a lot to overcome this syndrome, and they have introduced uh, critical thinking and analytical thinking in their curriculum by adopting, the IB curriculum or the Cambridge curriculum into this system. And to some extent, the boards like CBSE and ICSE have also tried to mold them with, try to include extracurricular activities, some kind of vocational training and things like that. But not too much effect, I would say, because uh, once the student passes out from class 12, he or she is judged on the basis of the marks he gets in board exams, and the same pattern is followed in the universities as well. So they basically follow something which has been there for almost 35 years. And thankfully, we have a new education policy, and we're going to talk a lot about this new education policy in this session. So some schools have implemented things beyond their curriculum, tried to include, other skills such as musical intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, which can empower and enable students with different abilities, their interpersonal abilities. They try to create hobby classes. All of that has been done, and a need was always felt that students have. I mean, a child has so much of things to perform, and they are only judged on the basis of the three core skills. And whereas if you study the theory of multiple intelligence by Howard Gardner, he says that there are 9 to 11 intelligences which we human beings have. So how have we left out, the other 6 to 9 intelligences? So all thanks to the new education policies, much of that has been covered. Thank you.
So I have realized that there's a lot of gap. There's a glaring gap between state boards and CBSE, ICSE.
Yes.
It's a good time to have a common board, or maybe all of them should just merge into a CBSE. And what do you think are going to be advantages of the same, and what are the disadvantages going to be?
Well, before we go to secondary education, let's go into the higher education because that's the ultimate goal, I think. So, if
Yes,
you
sir.
see the higher education system, the present higher education system welcomes people from all kinds of boards. But the benchmark of the, or as you call it, the university's admission process, it sets one common percentage system of a cutoff percentage system,
Yes, sir.
which I feel greatly inhibits a lot of students who might be, very capable, but because of some or the other issues during the board exams, might not have got 99%, though they might have also deserved it. So, firstly, and then coming down to the real change that you're talking about that is needed, Mr. Patel, is that how do we merge these boards and have a common board? If I were to study, let's say I've passed masters, and if I were to study in a university, and I had a choice that I were to study in a university, for example, United States or the UK, then I would go through one common application system. For example, in US, it's the common application system, right? It works for all the colleges, all the universities together. They take your SAT marks and then they put one common portal on which you can apply, and then you get universities, and you are able to apply for the university.
That's true, sir. I think
So
there's some
as you were talking about the new,
Arpan at sir's end.
right?
I think these technical glitches are happening everywhere these days.
Because of the rain, actually.
Must be it, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear you. So
Thanks.
I was just saying, you
Yes.
were talking about the national education policy. Uh,
Yes.
is this policy going to make a credible difference in terms of taking people or children out of the rote learning process and putting them into a more scientific thinking process?
Oh, definitely yes. Why I'll tell you, because in the long run it will, in another 5 or 10 years, because the real changes you'll start seeing between 2022 to 2025, because the policy's first outcomes you'll see in 2030. So what they have done is, firstly, they have included vocational training right from grade 6 onwards. That's very important. And then uh, they the another judge in terms, so it's not just one parameter they are judged, that the teacher just judges them. There's a self-evaluation process, and there's a peer evaluation. That means the classmates are going to judge them, and then what they perform actually in the exam, that's going to be judged. And all this 360-degree kind of evaluation will definitely help students develop some kind of critical thinking abilities, and more so because new education policy will also have a multi-dimensional outlook. You have a choice to choose subjects. Uh, I mean, if you're counseled well enough, then you don't have to stick to just three streams as we do now, that is humanities and science and commerce. But suppose I'm interested in physics and I'm also interested in psychology in class 11. So I can take both the subjects like it usually happens in liberal arts in the West.
Yes, sir.
Right. And then, thankfully, if you were if you're talking about developing a scientific temper, yes, definitely this will help because uh, the present system does not give enough exposures to students, and jobs like even if you have to practice being a carpenter or a painter, or even if you have to hold a screwdriver in your hand, they are somehow looked as demeaning if you were to talk about higher status society. But this education system, where there are going to be 10 bagless days right from grade 6 onwards, this definitely will encourage students to on vocational courses, choose an internship with a person whom they like, they would like to know about them, and gradually as they will grow, they will learn the importance of these skills. And in order to be a good scientist or engineer, or practice, go and practice in any field, if you want, even if you want to be a psychologist or a teacher, you need to have hands-on experience. So I believe the more earlier you are exposed to such kind of skills, the better it is. For example, Edison, if you see, if I a scientist, Edison established his first laboratory at the age of 8. He was he was not even 10. He was 8 years old when he established his first lab, and that too while he was selling newspapers, and he established it in a carriage, and he was traveling to sell the newspapers. And he was thrown away from the school because he was always out of the classroom. So he was very active, and that trait did not stop him whether he was going to school or not going to school. Similarly, there are different, if you see movies wherein young children are empowered from age to do out of class activities, you'll see how easily they grow. So I think it's very important that students do get such an exposure. And if the system itself is created in a way, like the new education policy has done it, is that right from grade 6 onwards, they'll be, I won't say forced to, but yes, they'll be given a choice to, and the school cannot force that they just have to study or sit in the classroom to study. Classrooms, the studies will not, the learning will not be limited to classroom, and that's very important. Yes.
So one question I have from within this is, you have been part of it for so long. What
Right.
about the teacher development program? We would see that COVID-19 has shown us that teachers found it very difficult, very difficult. And I'm
Right.
talking about some of the best schools of India. I've spoken to a lot of teachers. They found it very difficult to understand the technology which was already available for the last 15 years. You're logging onto things like Zoom and StreamYard and other, or Google for that matter, those platforms, and interacting with children. Children found it very easy because they have access to it in their daily lives. Teachers were not using it. Is it not time to have an evaluation for teachers, and secondly, a teacher training program so that they stay connected with the youth of today, which is moving at a rapid pace in terms of technology, especially?
Thank you, Evan, for bringing up this question. And I think, yes, whosoever has brought this question deserves full credit for it, because I've heard, I've heard from students that teachers always judge us, but why don't we judge teachers? So they always have this grouse. But there are some teachers whom the students feel are not up to the mark, and it's absolutely fine because you know uh, there's a quote also which says that when a teacher says that he or she has 20 years of experience, it may mean 1 year of wrong experience repeated 20 times. So, and Alvin Toffler rightly put it that the illiterates of the century, the 21st century, will not be the ones who will not be able to read, write, or learn, but those who will not be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Henry.
Relearn.
we're always confused about what is this earn, learn, and relearn and learn means. Well, I would like to simply say that whenever you learn a new thing, you always learn the previous. So it's always about learning, and learning is something that
I think again we've got stuck with this thing.
Yeah.
But you
So
can
thank
actually,
you.
yeah, it's
yeah.
okay. Carry on.
So yes. So when you talk about teachers, it's very important that you know, at the very initial stage for about 10, 15 days, right from 25th March, we tried to implement the online learning. And thankfully, for the last 7 years or so, we had established an e-learning department, a full-fledged e-learning department, and we had regular teacher training courses in a batches of 15 to 20 teachers, not more than 20 teachers in any one go. And we had a full laboratory set up for them because all our classrooms had, smart boards, the whiteboard, and we now use them in all the 1,000 classrooms that we have. So teachers were forced to use the technology because if they don't use the technology, they'll not be able to teach. Because the softwares were meant to be taught in a way that teacher has to know the technology. But yes, the new platforms such as Zoom or Google Meet were new for some teachers, and even then we tried to sort those problems using the e-learning team. But what if I've been thinking always, what if we didn't have that learning team or a backup support system to guide you over a phone or over a call? And uh, it was definitely difficult. But I think any challenge, any problem always presents an opportunity. So it's good that most of the teachers have been able to come out of it. And
I think, Arpan, it's really kudos to the teachers to start to learn all these kind of new apps. It's not an easy
Yeah.
task. I can tell you that. Planning
The
lessons,
reason the reason I
it's
asked this question was
yes,
because once we had this webinar a few months back, you remember when Singapore and Malaysia teachers were given a presentation by us. So those teachers, some of the teachers got back to us and said we were planning to retire at the age of 52 because we were not able to handle these apps. But the leadership program we provided ensured that they said, okay, if the children can do it, we can also do it. And they finally came around that mental toughness program. We've got Sir back. So
no, that's a beautiful thing actually what Sir said just now. Ki you learn and you unlearn and you relearn again. That's the
unlearn.
mantra for life. Not just now, it's mantra for life because if we are rigid about our own ideologies, we do not progress.
True, true.
And
And
and it's
who
high
better
time,
than you to know
like
who takes care of so many children in so many schools?
absolutely, it's amazing. And coming from him, it means a lot because if the head of the organization thinks like this, I mean, that's the beauty. That's how it's going to translate to the others in the institution.
yes. So can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can now.
So I was
Yes,
talking,
sir, loud and clear.
yeah, a very good point, Arpan. You said that some teachers were planning to retire, and it's totally understandable because not everybody gets to familiarize himself or herself with technology so soon. But yes, if you make little efforts, little improvements, as the Kaizen philosophy says, there's 1% improvement every day. It does work for you, and slowly and gradually, one step after another, and you can learn. And the technology is very user friendly these days now. Just at a click of few buttons, you can just log on to systems. And I have seen people as old as 75, 85 using the technology with ease now after a few practice sessions. So I think
I
yes,
think the
in the
advantage of the pandemic is it's made everyone tech savvy at least.
yes,
Absolutely, it has.
yes, yes, definitely.
So I would like to ask you something related to this. Like, all these years our emphasis was on rote learning, and
Right.
it was about getting more marks. How about training our children towards humanitarian causes, towards social causes, towards things which are more meaningful in life? Especially now, children spend a lot of time in the learning organizations, and that's the time they learn from them much easier than what they learn from home.
Right. I think what you're saying is very important, and the role of family as well as the school. I think integration of both the schools as well as family and the society plays a very important role in the development of a child's personality. And even if you miss out just one aspect, the child won't be wholesome. You will not be able to develop the overall personality of the child. So when you're saying about what you're saying about the holistic development of the child, wherein the child is an active agent in social transformation, I think we need to first give the child a vision about life. That life is not just meant to perform it well in board exams or half yearly, pre-boards and boards, but also about performing well when you go out to society, when you interact with society. And schools have been able to do a fair job, I believe. Like they sensitize students about the climate change issues, for example. Then there are so many days. Like recently, we had the Global Hand Wash Day, for example. Then the International Day of Peace was celebrated last month. And the UN Day is coming. So if we celebrate these international days, and a kind of awareness definitely helps. So I think schools and teachers, most of them are already doing it. Otherwise, they should definitely practice taking children out to some kind of social cause. Once the COVID situation normalizes, they must have an interaction with the real face of society. They must go out and do some service projects. And one of the programs that I know is known as IAYP, or the International Award for Young People, which a child can start right from grade 6 onwards, and it goes up to class 12. And
Well, Arpan, if we integrate this kind of thought line or this kind of education into our children, only then will we start using it. This pandemic has really taught all of us these crucial lessons of life.
True, true.
I think there is some network issue at Sir's end, majorly actually.
I think too heavy rainfall. So even, for example, most schools, I've always seen they close over the moment it is the month, around the month of April, end of April, early May, is when the class 10 and class 12 board results start coming out. And then you would see most schools across cities across India, they will be putting out advertisements in newspapers that our child got 99%, our child got 100%.
True.
The lines of the parents is where that look, we will get your child 99%. Nobody is gloating over that. Look, from our school, these many children are next president as a volunteer and change, transform the lives of women and children in slums, or they completely transform the river.
True. Our focus is mostly on marks, unfortunately, and not
They
on, the
converted it into a jungle or something of that sort. So I plan to have a school someday of my own. Probably I'll try and apply these things. We've got Sir back again.
yes.
So please continue. Sir.
yeah, it's a very big good point you were saying, Arpan. I could hear you. That
Right.
why not a school which advertises how to make the child a wholesome and contributing personality to the society, as we call
Right.
an active agent of social change. Making the surroundings green, and taking a pledge to resolve to go out on the street and advocate the water body nearby or the river nearby should be kept free from garbage and dumping. Very good.
Every
I
school
think
could probably adopt something, one anything, probably traffic, probably uh, just the nalas in the area, anything, or just
yes.
ensuring that your kuda in the morning is picked up and the green one in green, the one in blue, the one in red in red. They could go and teach the old ones and their parents that look, this is has to be done. So the children become the teachers. The next, if not this generation, at least the next generation will be raised with more moral consciousness.
No, very nice. It's an incredible thought, and I truly support you. And there are some schools which do take such laudable initiatives, and hopefully the media also covers it. And but sometimes good efforts are they don't go noticed by the society. I think there should be also a campaign to promote such schools which are trying to inculcate good values in children as responsible citizens towards the society. So I think that's an initiative we need at the media level also. If people in the media are listening to this, I would urge you to kind of highlight such efforts so that more and more schools and teachers, educators, all of us are encouraged to take such initiatives as well. So it's a good point. What's your next question, please?
Yeah, Shivali ma'am.
So our next question is, the run for high flying careers and efforts required is appreciable, which we understand. As you just said about moral and ethics in our society, they are at, they are very low. Like, we don't really rate it. The same get passed to the children. And what is the cure? How do we pass it on to our children? Like, how do we actually translate it to them? This is very important.
Mhm.
That is a question to be asked, because coming from you, sir, it will make a lot of difference. How exactly can we look into this direction? Just telling them is not enough. We need to have certain things in
Right,
place.
right. That's true. So what you mean to say is that there are no moral classes and values education classes, but students, the kind of society we have, students are not so influenced by what they are taught in the classrooms or what they are taught through books, but more on learning from doing and learning from being. So a very good emphasis you have said, and I think the new education policy has also tried to cover this when it says that evaluation by your peers and self-evaluation. It is not just about evaluating yourself against the marks you get, but what kind of behaviors you practice as well. And if we tell the students that when you go out in the society, the kind of values you practice, you are being watched, and people judge you, and because the kind of way you conduct yourself, you behave yourself, the way you speak, the way you talk, the way you walk, all this is more important in life than just about what you know. That's the knowledge. So a knowledge about how a person behaves and acts is even more important than what the kind of knowledge a person has. I think if we are able to ingrain this very thought right from a young age, which it is the responsibility of all of us educators, be it the principals, be it the headmasters, the teachers, all of them have a combined duty to tell children that these moral values are important. And the earlier it is, the better it is, because once a child enters the teenage, they try to become independent. Some see that independence as rebellion, and they are labeled as having a rebellious attitude towards the parents and towards the society or towards the teachers, which to some extent is very natural because we all need to understand that it's a natural phenomena, and that's why here the role of counselors, the psychological counselors, as NCRT also lays in its guidelines that every school must have, above grade 6, must have a counselor. So, like, in our school also we have school counselors for children, and it's not about career counseling; it's about psychological counseling about the child, seeing the overall well-being of the child, wherein each and every child is talked to separately, and in case there are any problems they're experiencing with their peers and their families, or with teachers, or in the classroom setting, they can take an appointment with the counselor, go for a setting, go for another session and different sessions till the time the problem is truly resolved. So I think parents also need to play an active role, watch how the child is behaving. They should interact during the parents and teachers meeting. They should make sure that they leave everything behind, go and talk to the class teachers and the subject teachers, not just talk about the marks they are getting, but also about their behavior. So once the student sees that parents are also taking keen interest in their behavior, and then the counselors help available to resolve any issue which he is not able to share with the parents or the teachers or his peers or friends, there's always a counselor there. I think that's very important.
So just
And
connecting this point of yours to what you were
yes,
previously speaking about, developing scientific temper in students and also teacher
yes,
training. Uh,
yes.
in my last 4.5 years of being going to schools and colleges and universities, what I feel is it is also absolutely imperative that we have some sort of a module program for parents, develop a scientific temper in parents, because children actually ape what their parents are doing at home. If their parents are loud,
Mhm.
they're showing off about something or putting people down, the children just take it. Subconsciously, they start inheriting it. And then they give it back to society in some way or the other. So, is it we at CatFit have apart from children and teacher training programs, we also have a parent training program where we explain to them about the issues that children of today are facing and how, as parents, they can deal with these issues. Is it time to have something that is that across the board and have this as part of the curriculum itself?
I think that's a very important aspect that you mentioned about it just now. It's a very important thing. Sometimes parents are like typical helicopter parenting is what they believe in, and then there are times the parents are very aloof. They need to create a balance between both the things. It's very important. Other than focusing on the marks of the child, or I have seen a lot of parents going to the, for the meet, when they go for parent teacher meet. That's the only thing they have in mind, whether my child is first or second or how many marks. But they don't want to know how the child has been behaving with the other children.
They actually went for the parent teacher meeting. I've had school principals and directors tell me that they don't even come for the parent teacher meetings. They
That's
just
true.
don't come.
I don't know what
And
are they. People are not concerned. They don't want to participate, and then they expect their children to shine in world and be a different human being. I wonder how.
true, true. So you yourself are a young parent who has a child in class. He finished class 10, now is in class 11. So as a parent, what do you think are your responsibilities? In terms of what we are speaking about today.
See, Arpan, as a parent, I can tell you, I am very conscious as a parent how I behave, and because I know my child is always watching me constantly, regularly, and at every point in time. If I want to make sure my child should have this kind of quality, suppose I say giving, I have to be a giver myself. I cannot just lecture him about giving and behave otherwise. So I'm very conscious. And then, other than that, I make sure that I have communication with my child, because for me, I personally feel that communication is the only way, and it's got that kind of strength which nothing else has. And my communication channel with my child is always open. Always. He can reach out whenever he wants to, as many times as he wants to. I do not generally get irritated. If he asks me the same question 10 times, I'm happy to answer.
To
And
what extent do you allow
I,
him to take his decisions? I mean, to how many times would you tell him stop, and how many times would you allow him to go? So let's say he has to make 10 different decisions. which are outside the school, which are the ones where you would be wanting him to take your advice, or should there be no advice at all? Because sometimes when children are given advice, they become rebellious.
No, it's important to give your point. Like he's in that stage when, those trouble teens, if I may call. But, the thing is that I make sure that I always give him my choices and things that I like. At the same time, I tell him that you are a mini adult and you have the right to take your decision. But I'm there. And if he is, taking a decision which is probably not on my terms, I still give him a ear. I want to hear him out. I do not just pass my judgment on to him. That I'm very particular about, because the child needs to make a mistake. He needs to fall down for him to able to get up on his own. Well, sir
Yes,
is
sir.
back.
Back.
Yes. Oops, he's again some
Yeah.
network issue. So, Arpan, I'm very, very conscious about these things. I let him make small decisions which are important. He needs to decide when he needs to study. I can't be telling him all the time, pado, pado. The only thing as a parent, I would go close to him and I tell him, don't you think if you need to finish 5 chapters, maybe you need to start now? And if he says, I know, Ma, I will do it another half an hour, I just leave it because he's a conscious kid.
Right.
So it's back.
So, are we audible to you, sir?
I think no, unfortunately, no. So,
I
can you
think
hear
so. Are we?
us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
We can hear you now.
yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, were you able to hear the last question, or do you want me to?
Uh, I think we were talking about parenting. So after that, if you have any other, yes.
Yes, we were attempting and
Very
back
important,
as
as
we
you
were
said.
making the scientific, sci- the teachers and children need to have scientific temper. So is it?
Right.
So I was just saying that CatFit has had these programs wherein we have parent-teacher
Yes.
training as well. Don't you think developing a scientific temper in parents is equally important? Because I personally believe
Very nice.
more than the teachers, somehow the parents are the reason why the children of today are turning out to be how they are.
Yes.
They are getting everything on a platter. They blame the school for everything. And this is after interacting with over 150 schools in the last 4 or 5 years. This is the conclusion I have reached, that parents are equally responsible, but they're not willing to take that responsibility. So, how can we firstly ask them to take responsibility? Second, develop a scientific temper. And lastly, have them have a parent training module as part of the curriculum across the board.
Absolutely, Arpan. What you have said is, we have hit the bullseye, because without the parent child and scientific, building a scientific temper is one of them, one of the most important, See, until suppose a parent lives, I mean, the child is brought up in an Orthodox family wherein they usually don't get scientific base or understanding of how things function in life, and they are just exposed to the orthodox methods. The child will grow up in an orthodox family thinking that the old norms that are being practiced in society are viable and they are reasonable enough. He doesn't, she doesn't need to develop a scientific temper. But yes, absolutely. Once you have a parent on board with you, and they and that too to have this kind of role and responsibility to educate parents whenever they get a chance to meet. Thankfully, I know schools which have got a home visit scheme for their teachers. Like the teachers visit uh, the the home. Once in the entire once the entire session, the academic session starts, it's a must for a teacher to visit 4 to 5 students' home once the curriculum starts. What happens then is teacher knows what exactly are the settings, uh, and from where he or she studies, and what kind of knowledge and backgrounds do the parents have. Second opportunity is, the parents teachers meeting. And third, of course, is the student himself. The student himself, when once he or she goes back to the parents, and once the child starts interacting, the student should be encouraged to drive home this that the parents have to be involved. And one of the parents are educated or not. Like, I know somebody who used to not be so educated mother. She used to just cook food at home, and she was not so literate. But every time the child used to come back, this mother used to say that, show me your diary, what have you done previously, and what copies. So she would know how far the child has progressed just by seeing the number of pages the child is filled. And then that that mother's child was always ahead of the classroom, because he or she knew that there's a check back at the home, because the mother is at least watching how what kind of progress on a day-to-day basis she was making. So this kind of mechanism, a 360-degree feedback, is very important. The teachers should inquire from the students. The students should go back to the parent. The parent should also meet the teachers. And of course, if there is any problem issue, they should be able to discuss it with the school. And same goes for the school. So there are some good schools who practice, a phone call method. They ask the teachers to make a phone call to the parent whenever an issue comes up, and they always give a positive feedback. It's not just about complaining that your child is not performing well. It's also about giving compliments, how well your child is performing, and this is how you can help your child do even better. So this kind of positive reinforcement is needed in the school education system. And the new education policy, as I see that, it has though got set guidelines, but it is also an open-ended policy, wherein they have not made very strict guidelines for the schools. That, like, they expect the good schools to have some kind of formal system of education, of not just following rote learning but developing critical thinking abilities. At the same time, they give a liberty to the school to set up their own norms. So I think it's important, and it's time for the Indian society to awaken. If we are ready for a mission 2030, 10 years from now, I think the goal should be, that we as a society become not just a literate society, but educated society, which is willing to learn continuously. And that involves
That
both the
was
parents, the teachers, the students, and we, the stakeholders as well. Yes.
very well brought out. I think you've, as you yourself said in the answer, 360 bird's eye view of all the issues. We have just, I think we're almost out of time, but I think I'll just throw in the last question to you, because because since you've been in the education sector for so long, to
Yeah.
what extent are the problems of education, the problems of the Indian education system, responsible for the ills and social evils of society in the country?
Well, thanks for asking that question. I think somebody rightly said that the ills in the society don't happen because of the culprits or the miscreants in the society, but also because of the inaction by good people. So if I were to summarize entire thing that I would like to say, I would like to say that good people, good educators, good principals, good teachers, they also need to, they have a duty beyond the four boundaries of the school. And that is, they must come out to the society to not just educate their children, but the society as a whole. if they know something, like you were giving example of how to in a green container would mean, in a blue container would mean, what kind of, where to dispose of plastics and when not to dispose of eco-friendly waste. So all these kind of education, whether it is environmental education, whether it whether it is education to develop a consciousness about the society that you're living in. I think all of this should be discussed within the classroom, not just about the studies alone. And then teachers, I've seen some teachers who are very active, or rather proactive agents of social change. They form a team, they take the student body on a Saturdays when they have got these hobby classes. They take them out on the streets, they do some activity, try to explain how the economy works, how the society works. So all of this, hands-on learning is always beneficial. Once the teachers, the educators, they go beyond the classroom learning setup, they always become a role model for others to follow, because it's like a chain reaction. It's like lighting one candle, and that candle lightens then another, so, and so forth. It's like the leader empowering one leader to become another leader, and the same leader goes on to empower another leader. So we educators, only then the ailments of the society will be reduced. So I believe schools are not, if not, they are directly responsible for the ailments of the society. Secondly, they must set a good role model themselves of practicing good moral values, or for that matter, values that are essentially needed in today's world. And secondly, they must also act beyond the boundaries of the school in order to show to the society what good things can be done, instead of just the media highlighting only the negative aspects of the society. Yes, Arpan.
So there, thank you so much for taking out time today in the evening, despite such a heavy rains there where you are located and a bad connection. But we were able to listen to most of it, almost all of it actually. And Shifali Chopra and Mr. Shishir Srivastava, thank you for taking out your time today in the evening. I know both of you are very, very busy otherwise. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you heard Mr. Shishir Srivastava, an author, motivational speaker, and an educationist, speaking about the problems and ills of the education system in India and rectifying those problems with practical solutions. We will see you again with a different panelist and the same panelist with a different topic in the future. Till then, good evening. Thank you.